And with that Balochistan strike, Pakistan was so worried that once we did away with Article 370, it did nothing. That is why China started that operation in Ladakh to pep up Pakistan. And
so firstly, thank you so much for joining. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time. I was listening to an interview where you said that you were a very studious person as a child. So how did NDA
right.
happen?
That's a long story. You are absolutely right. I was a very studious person as a child. I was very fond of books. I could read a book a day. And my father, every time he went out, he would come with an armful of books and I would finish them in a matter of days and ask for more. When I joined the school, we had an excellent library in St. Aloysius, Jabalpur, where I would spend most of my time with those books. I was allowed to take out 4 books at a time instead of the normal 2 because I was a very fast reader. The librarian was very fond of me. I used to have ink all over my clothes. Then my 7th and 8th class onward, I started reading the commando comics of World War I, World War II. And slowly these ideas of war and war fighting and glamour and glory and, victory and all that started forming. But the real impulse, the real push to join the army came in 1965 during the Indo-Pakistan War, when my elder brother, who was then just 23 years old, and he was a captain in the 11th Battalion, the Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. He was killed in action in the Indo-Pak War. He was blasted to bits by a mine, and his, we didn't even get the dead body because it was all blown to pieces. So we just got, they collected the remains and they cremated them, and then they gave us just a copper urn with the ashes. So when I saw those urns come home, my brother reduced to just bits of ash. I felt very angry, and that is the time I decided I must join the NDA. I must get into the army. And that very year in December, I had already applied for the written exam in Delhi. So I did the written exam, and then my father, when they found out, they were horrified. The whole family said, "Humne theka le rakha hai. Are we the only family who's supposed to send boys to die? Aren't other families, don't they have sons, etc., etc., and all that?" So you see, my father knew that I was very scholarly bent of mind, intellectual bent of mind. So he was very keen that I should join the IAS. One of his sons should be IAS. So he said, "Okay, let it be a rehearsal for your IAS interview. It will give you some experience. You go, but you are not joined." I said, "Okay." He said, "Look, you won't pass. The army, they want people who play lots of games, who are very extrovert, etc." So my brother was very tall, very handsome, very good cricketer. He said, that is the type they need in the army. They don't need intellectuals in the army. You will be a square peg in a round hole. You won't make it. So I said, "Dad, at least let me try." So I went for my Air Force interview, SSP board in Mysore, all the way down south. First time I traveled alone. I was growing up. So I had just finished my senior Cambridge. And, and then as luck would have it, when the results came out, everybody was shocked. In the all India merit list, out of about 1,40,000-50,000 boys who had applied, I was number 2. Number 2 in the all India merit list. So everybody was amazed. And then I told my dad, "You said I won't get through. I've gotten through and I've done so well. So let me go. This seems to be my path." So he had second thoughts, of course, because he was very worried. He had just lost one son. You can imagine, within a year and a half, his second boy was entering. So he had almost agreed when the indemnity bond, before you join the NDA, your father has to sign an indemnity bond. And that came from the academy, that if your son dies in the course of training, he breaks his legs or breaks his bones, etc., you will claim no compensation from the army. So he was shocked. He said, "You are not going." I was shocked because it was already 5-7 days that elapsed and NDA had already started, the term had started. So I panicked. I said, this is my last chance. So I called a rickshaw. I loaded my trunk and I said, I'm going. He said, but I haven't signed the indemnity bond. I said, you send it later, but I'm going. So he actually waited to see if I was just acting or actually going. But I started on my way to the railway station. I had that warrant sent by the NDA. So then Dad got very worried. He stopped the rickshaw. He says, don't fight it, go from home. I'll drop you to home. So 10, 11 days after the academy started, my father dropped me, and that's where my journey of 41 years in the armed forces started. 4 years of training, 37 years as an officer.
In training, how does the transformation from a citizen to a soldier happen?
Look, the NDA, they take in boys. I was 16 and a half when I joined the NDA. 16 and a half, just a teenager. And I came out a man at the age of 20. When I came out, I was a man. I had mustaches and they really toughen you up. It's a tough life. There is no place for sissies and weaklings, right? Because they make sure such people leave. And they toughen you up to face up to anything, even torture. An NDA guy can stand up to anything because at the end of term, they actually beat you up. It's part of the tradition and custom. So, and they physically toughen you up, they make you self-reliant. And gone a boy, came out a man. The Academy of Mars, where they take in boys and turn them into men. It was great. And the friendships that you form, when you are under hard pressure, the bonds that you forge with your postmates are life lasting. It was an amazing experience. The NDA is grand, it's beautiful. The Sudan block, massive building, resplendent, bougainvilleas, the gardens, this thing. I mean, the NDA is, you may leave the NDA, but the NDA never leaves you. A part of you will always be a cadet. There in the NDA, age of 16 and a half, below 20, like Martandia, the gift of eternal youth, the cadet in the NDA will always be under 20. Forever young, full of life, with that yen for life, for living, for being adventurous, for being naughty, getting punished, but still being naughty. That is what the NDA is all about. Yeah.
What was your experience fighting your first war in Bangladesh?
Mine is called the Batch of 71. We are the Batch of 71 from the NDA. We went to the IMA, Indian Military Academy at Dehradun. And, in March, the clouds of war had started gathering. General Tika Khan had been sent as the butcher of Bangladesh to sort out Bangladesh. And, he had, as per the Hamudur Rahman Inquiry Commission done by the Pakistanis themselves, they had killed 3 billion Bengalis. They had raped 1 billion Bengali women, raped 1 billion Bengali women, and 10 billion refugees were pushed out into India. So war was inevitable. War was inevitable. And the war clouds were gathering, and I still remember that time a disease had spread because of the billions of refugees who were coming. It was called Joy Bangla. It was conjunctivitis. Their eyes grow red and start screaming, my God, it is. So that is a sign of coming war. And there were vultures flying all over Bangladesh and like that. So in October, our adjutant, he used to be on a white horse. So he came to the parade ground and we were all fallen and he said, boys of, the 48 course, you have done very well. We are very happy with your progress. So we are going to pass you out a month ahead of schedule. We were scheduled to pass out on 14 December 1971. But we actually were passed out a month before. So we were delighted. Oh my God, we gained 1 month seniority. And seniority means a lot in the armed forces, you know. So he said we were so thrilled. We started cheering and yay, hip hip hooray and all like that. Pipe down, you jokers. You know? And then he turned to the adjutant, assistant adjutant. He said, I feel sorry for this one. He said, why, sir? He said, you know, by the time they'll get their commission, 1 month, hence the war would have started or would be about to start. The units would be in action. They would not have known the boys. The boys would not have known them. And they will be sent into action because they are young blood. They'll go charging, you know, where others are going slower because they are more experienced. And they will fight. A lot of them will get killed. I feel sorry for them. And he was absolutely right and prophetic. We got our commission. My mom and dad came. They were very worried. They had seen one son off in the 65 war and he had never come back. Now the second son, they had put the pips on my shoulder. But they were very worried whether I was also going to a war and whether I would come back alive in one piece. They were very tense and very worried. My father was ruining his decision to let me go. But that is destiny. So we got 10 days leave to spend time with Mama, Papa, and then into the train and off Assam Mail. You know, and the Assam Mail, broad gauge, then Assam Mail, feeder gauge. And then we landed at Siliguri, one bright sunlit morning in 25th or 26th of November, I remember. The date was, there were 30 of my batch in that train. So we got down at Siliguri railway station. It did not have a roof then, you know, it was out open. And the place was full of soldiers with steel helmets and, you know, their rifles and their bayonets gleaming in the winter sun. You know, that's the scene I so vividly remember. And we got down, thousands of troops milling around on the station. And, some of the units had already gone into Bangladesh. And we hugged one another because we were not sure whether we would be alive or dead after a few days and whether we would meet one another again or not. And so, you know, then our boys came forward, saluted us, and they said, "Sir, saab, jaldi karo, paltan to Bangladesh mein hai. You baad mein. You know, so we said, oh, what do I do with my trunk? Where do I put it? He said, don't worry, sir. The boys will take it to the unit rear. You just take your backpack and your this thing with one blanket and your one change of clothes, two changes of clothes, your jocks and your vests, and you come. You know? There's no time to lose. And here's your steel helmet. Here is your stancer. Please fix the beret. Fix the beret. You know, because anything could happen any time. And we went in, we got into the one-ton truck. To cut a long story short, on the very first day of the war, many of us were in action. Real action. Some of my friends died on the first day of the war itself. One of them was tortured. He got caught by the Pakistanis when he was on a patrol. He was tortured, burned with cigarette butts, every bone in the body broken, both the eyes gouged out, you know, things like that. And we got some of the boys of my batch, they died, and their parents got their first pension before they got their first pay. The first money that went home was your pension because it was already dead. Many were wounded, some lost their legs, they walk around on plastic legs, some have plastic arms. That's the way it was. So we are the born to battle batch, but we are extremely proud of the fact that in 13 bloody days, we had marched 550 kilometers inside Bangladesh. We had captured the capital city of Dhaka. Lieutenant General Niazi, along with 93,000 Pakistani soldiers, had surrendered to Lieutenant General Sanjeev Singh Arora. My God, what a victory it was. How thrilling. we may have suffered, but we had created a new nation state with a force of arms, right? And we had to pay the price. One of my course mates got the Paramveer Chakra at the age of 21, second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, Paramveer Chakra posthumous, destroyed 5 Pakistani tanks before he was shot down himself. He was gunned down, he died instantly, but he had knocked out 5 Pakistani tanks with 1 century of tanks. He got the Paramveer Chakra. You know? So another one of my batchmates who became a colonel later, NJC Nair, got the Ashok Chakra. Ours is the only batch which has 1 Paramveer Chakra, 1 Ashok. Other batches have 1 PVC or 1 AC, but no batch has received both the top awards of the country. Calendar.
What is the psychological impact on a young soldier when he sees his batchmates die like that?
Well, it's bad, but somehow that is what our training is for. It toughens you up. It readies you to face the unexpected. You are taught to put your country first, your regiment next, your men after that, and you at the last. So you take it as a fact of life. And actually, when you get to war, a very strange thing happens. You know, at least it happened to me, and I'm sure it has happened to a lot of my friends. You suddenly get a hardness of heart. It is, you know, nature's way of enduring you to see people with their intestines hanging out, people badly wounded, people crying for water. You know, you see all those sights, but you have to endure yourself. You have to make yourself go blank with it, not because if you start feeling it, you won't survive. You won't survive. There's something happens to your heart. You know? And suddenly I found that it just didn't matter. The dead bodies, the wounded, the water, you know, and there was just that inner urge, God, I want to live through it. God, I want to live through it. And that's it. And I lived, I survived. I have not been just in one battlefield. As a colonel, I commanded my battalion. Half colonel, I commanded my battalion in Kargil. 6 men killed, 21 wounded. Right? We had 1 Veer Chakra posthumous. 1 boy died. 4 Sena medals. I got the Vishisht Seva Medal there. Right? Then I fought again in Kishtwar as a brigadier. And one of my boys got the Ashok Chakra, the highest gallantry award. We killed a record number of terrorists, and we made the whole of Kishtwar was the worst area when I was sent. When I left it, it was as peaceful as a lamb. An exodus of Hindus had been started because they started killing the Hindu minority. And I put a stop to it. The Hindus came back, unlike the Pandits. The Dogra Hindus of Kishtwar came back because I got after those terrorists and I slaughtered them. You see? And there I got my Sena Medal. And then, of course, my final command, my last command was as a Major General when I commanded the Romeo Force. 20 battalions I had under me and 20,000 men. And I was dealing with the Rajouri and Poonch districts and the worst 2 districts in J. But I pacified them once again. 108 terrorists were killed, and by the time I left, that area was peaceful as a lamb. So I'm very proud that, you know, God put me through so much, even more than normal army officers. Not very many have fought so much, and almost at every rank. As a major, I fought in Punjab, counter-terrorist operation, commanding a company of 6, Lieutenant Colonel Kargil. Then as a brigadier, Kishtwar, Major General Rajouri-Poonch. Almost all my life, half my life in jail, fighting non-stop. And if I have come out alive without a scratch, when boys to my left and boys to my right died, right? I owe it to the prayers of my wife and my God. Yeah.
Can you share your experience of the counter-terrorism efforts in Punjab?
Punjab, all right. You see, In the Punjab, I was posted, I belong to 6th Battalion Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. That is where I was commissioned and that is where I commanded. But after my staff college and my brigade major's tenure, I was posted to another unit, 4th Battalion Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. It is our oldest unit. It was fought under General Zorawar Singh in 1841 in Tibet. The unit is almost 180 years old. So I was posted to that unit because then they were going to celebrate the 150th anniversary, right? So I was sent because I was staff college qualified. They thought I was a bright boy. So I was sent to the unit. They had 2 companies, Dogras, 2 companies, Sikhs. Now this was the year 85. 84, you remember what had happened in Punjab? Blue Star. And people didn't realize, they said 4th J and K Rifles, so Sikh units were not being posted in the Punjab, right? And we had 2 company Sikhs. And when I joined that battalion, initially I was given a Dogra company, but after a few months, my CEO called me. He says, boy, you go take over that Sikh company. So I was actually, worried because, the Sikhs were very angry at that time. Quite obviously, the Golden Temple had been attacked. They were very hurt, they were very angry. And the Sikhs are a very emotional lot. So I said, sir, all my life I have commanded Dogra, so let me be with Dogra. I know that. And no, you have to go very high and all that. So you must get an experience of all kind of. Now you take over that Sikh company. So we were on border scene. We were not even together. And initially when I went, I saw my boys 6 foot plus of the Maja criminal belt, mostly Amritsar, Maja, that area, the mud area. Tall, huge, wild looking fellows, and and they were angry, they were bitter, So they, by initial few days, I used to keep my stand under my pillow. But I wasn't sure if my own boys would come and just one day get very angry and shoot me up. It was that kind of a situation. But then I decided, what the bloody hell? Now I'm in it, we will deal with it. So one day I got the entire company together and I spoke to them very frankly, very straightforward. No officer, non-Sikh officer had dared to speak to them like that. I said, guys, I have done the staff college, I have been a BM, and let me tell you a few facts of life. In 71, we broke Pakistan, and and now they are trying to break us up. They are trying to use you. But don't forget, if you read your Guru Granth Sahib, they are the same people who tortured your ancestors. Katiyan, Degai, Jalai gaye. They were burnt alive in, boiled alive in those huge drums, and sawed in half, murdered brutally, piece by piece, limb by limb, they were torn apart. I said, who did that? These people who are now Pakistan. And you think they are your well-wishers? They want you to suffer. They want you to suffer. That is why they are inside. There is no house in which there is no, fights. There are no jhagdas. But when you are Gwandi, that means when your neighbors start taking advantage of that fight and egging you on and doing this, then you are heading for trouble. So realize. So my company officer, who was the second lieutenant, that poor boy was shocked as to what would be the reaction to this. So he looked at me with his eyes round with horror and pride. What is this man saying? How is he daring to talk to these Khalsas like that? But who dares with? Something? Those boys, Khalsas, they liked my straight talk. My straight talk, without fear. And they were totally one of. I have never in my service had more loyalty from any group of soldiers, then from those 120 odd Khalsa boys of Delta Company, 4th Battalion, the Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. Amazing. And what they did, once they like you, they like you. That is the thing with the Khalsa. And if they don't like you, you can be any rank, any of this thing, they won't give you respect. They won't. Because you have to win their respect. And fortunately, I managed to do that, and their love. And I've never had more affection. And I led them in operations against their own people. But they played up. Beautiful. The loyalty that they showed is heart-touching. Heart-warming. I salute those boys. Each and every one of them. And I thank them for the loyalty that they gave. Yeah.
So, do you think there is a permanent solution to Kashmir? By which I mean, will Kashmir ever be as normal a state as Delhi or Kolkata?
Look, the permanent solution to Kashmir is that we have already made it. I'm glad the government threw out Article 370 and 35A. Now you made the intent very clear. We are here to stay. No sky is the limit. Ask anything you want. We will give it to you. Nothing, sir. You are part of India and that's it. You better live with it. And Pakistan has been told to get off. And with that Balochistan strike, Pakistan was so worried that once we did away with Article 370, it did nothing. That is why China started that operation in Ladakh to pep up Pakistan and to encourage it, to embolden it to restart its proxy war, which it had stopped. And it is only now that Pakistan initially asked for a ceasefire, but we knew something was cooking. And now they started sending in drones. They found a new bloody solution to not being able to infiltrate. And, whosoever they send into J&K is getting killed. When I was serving in J&K, there were 5,000 armed terrorists there. You understand? 5,000. 60% of them were Afghans and Punjabi. Today, you know how many terrorists are left? 150. 5,000 to 150. And the moment they poke their head up, they are killed within a matter of days and hours. So it's all over bar the shouting. India should not weaken in the resolve. And we should make it clear to Pakistan, there is no bloody Kashmir dispute. The only dispute is POK. When are you giving it to us? That's it. Forget about this part of Kashmir. Forget about it. Like I keep telling my Pakistani interlocutors on TV debates, you want Kashmir, boy, come and get it. You have the thumb. Can you take it by military force? You cannot. Live with that. Because you can make all the noise you want, you will not get it. And if you fight for it, you may lose the rest half of your life. It may get split into 4. Last time it got split into 2, this time it may split into 4. Yeah.
What is your view on the Balochistan situation?
Balochistan, please understand, is not a normal princely state like the 560 princely states that were given the option of joining India or Pakistan at the time of independence. Balochistan was an independent country like Nepal, like Burma, like Sri Lanka. It had direct treaty relationship with Whitehall. And Jinnah had been the first legal advisor of Balochistan. And Balochistan had declared its independence on 11th of August, 4 days before, the Pakistan and 5 days before us. And they were a free country like Nepal. The same Jinnah who advised them to be free and all that, and the same Jinnah then goes around and, he attacks Balochistan, sends in the Pakistani army. There have been 5 revolts in Balochistan. They have slaughtered the Baluch, slaughtered them. Once again, firstly, Tika Khan was unleashed, butcher of Balochistan. He became, and then they have launched 5 massive military campaigns, and now the Chinese are coming into that place. The slaughter of the poor Balochis continues. And India as a democracy, I think, is concerned, has to be concerned with the violation of human rights, with the fact that democracy is being suppressed there. So we have full sympathy and support. Matlab, moral support to this freedom struggle. It is a freedom struggle.
7th of July is a very important day because today is also the death anniversary of Captain Vikram Batra. Can you share some anecdotes from your experience in Kargil?
Yeah. You see, Captain Vikram Batra is from my regiment, the Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. He was from the 13th Battalion, the Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. Lieutenant General Joshi, who's now the Army Commander, Northern Command, was then the commanding officer as a Lieutenant Colonel. He was leading the attack. So Vikram Batra was a very enthusiastic young officer, and he was very dedicated to his men. So the first attack they were given is after the capture of Tololing. They were asked to capture a 5140 peak, which was the highest peak in that area where they had put anti-aircraft guns. And because of that, no helicopter could land to evacuate casualties, to do recce, etc. So they were told that this bloody highest peak in that area, 13 Jack must take. So he attacked at night, he led the attack, and by first light, this man had captured that peak. And he attacked it from such an area that there was a sheer cliff. So the Pakistanis never thought anybody could come that way, but they put ropes and they climbed up and they surprised them from behind. So by first light, that peak was captured, and the Pakistanis just ran in panic. Many of them fell to their death down that cliff. You see, and by morning he had captured it and he gave the success signal. You know what the success signal was? Ye dil mange more. And it echoed and re-echoed all over the country. Television channels, Barkha Dutt and the others who had reached there, they echoed this slogan all over the country, and he became the iconic face of the young officers in that war, right? And then this unit was sent for another attack in the Mashkova. 0.4810, they were told to attack that. There they got very hard. Vikram Batra was down with fever. So the CO had not sent him to the attack. He was with a blanket and shivering, in the second attack. And then what happened? Both the companies that went to attack, they got stuck, pinned down. And the CO was at a loss what to do. Then Vikram Batra came to him with that blanket shivering. He said, "Sir, please, I volunteer. I would go. I will press home the attack." He said, "But how can I send you? You got fever." He said, "Sir, but you have no one else. You have no choice. You have to send." He said, "Okay, son, go, but take care." So this man, he threw off his blanket. He just took a tablet of, paracetamol, and he started climbing. His men were amazed. Slow down, sir, up. At that height, I'm talking of 16,000 feet, you get one step and you have to breathe 3 times. And you are climbing up like this on all fours. So once again, he reached that place. There was a bitter hand-to-hand fight. He personally got into hand-to-hand fighting. He killed 5 Pakistanis. 2 he shot, 1 he bayoneted, 1 he threw down, 1 he grappled. He had gone like crazy. And he was then severely wounded. And as they cleared that area, the enemy started shelling. That is called DFSOS, red. And he shells his own area to kill, because he's in bunkers and the enemy is outside, so more of them will die. More Indians will die. So when they started shelling, these people all took cover behind a set of boulders. One boy who was wounded was lying outside. He was very badly wounded. And he was crying, mujhe bachao, main mar jaunga. So they, the cries were so piteous that they could not bear it. So the JCO, the junior commissioned officer, the Subedar Saab, who was his number 2 in that company, he said, Saab, main jata hu, main usko le aau. So this man just put a hand on his shoulder. You know what he said? Tu baal bachedar. Abe tere ladke ladkiyan. You have to marry your daughter. You wait, I'll go. Mera koi nahi hai. I'm a bachelor. There's nobody to cry for me. So don't worry. You wait here. He said, sir, but you are wounded. That doesn't matter. It's to be done. It's to be done. And he went out in that hail of fire, shells bursting. He pulled that wounded boy up, put him on his shoulder. He dragged him, falling, this thing, and he brought him to safety and pushed him over the boulder. Just then an enemy sniper saw this tamasha, this harkat. He took a aim and he shot Vikram Batra through his heart. So Vikram Batra died. He look at that sacrificial altruism. To save somebody else, he gave it. He could easily have hidden behind those boulders. He had captured that area. He just had to go back alive from there, get himself treated. But he sacrificed himself to save one of his boys. This is called the strange sacrificial altruism that you see in war. People sacrifice themselves. They do amazing things of self-sacrifice. Whereas your greatest urge is self-preservation, self-protection. That is what makes cowards out of men, but not our soldiers. This is not our office. So this is how Vikram Batra died. He was awarded the Paramveer Chakra posthumously. And very surprisingly, this is the battalion that got 2 Paramveer Chakra. That action. The other was Lance Naik Sanjay Kumar, who is now JCO. He is with the Indian Military Academy. Paramveer Chakra. So 2 Paramveer Chakras to our battalion, 13th battalion, the Jammu and Kashmir Rifles, the lucky 13th. Yeah.
You have said that what eventually led to the Kargil had actually started in the 90s. So, do you think the approach of Indian politicians to act only when it's too late has ever been a hindrance to execution?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
You had said in an interview earlier that what eventually led to the Kargil had actually started in the 90s. So, do you feel...
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it had started in 1987. It was called the intrusion at Daluna. That's a long story, but I'll give it to you. And by 1990, my unit was posted there. 2 units have already had to be pulled out of that area because that is totally, the Pakistanis had taken all the dominating heights by creeping encroachment in the winters and in the others, and they were giving very hell. So my unit was sent there. And, then we did fire assaults. We used artillery, we used mortars, we used Grad rockets, air defense guns, heavy machine guns, and artillery in the direct fire role. We plastered the Pakistanis because they were giving us hell. And after the plastering they got, they kept quiet. Our intention was to try and take some of the posts back. When, the GHQ, Islamabad and army headquarters had to have a ceasefire because peace talks were going on between the political leadership. So we were told to pipe down. And then the same thing erupted in 1999. Very few people know about this clashes that took from 87 to about 92, 93 in that area. Much before the main Kargil War. That's where I got my VSM, and that's where my soldiers got the Veer Chakra, 4 Sena Medal, lots of Chiefs Commendation card. 25 were awarded, and my unit was given the Chiefs citation as best performing unit, in that actual action. So that's what it is. So we had forewarning. And despite that, because then an era of some spells of peace had come in. So, you lower your guard, and then the Pakistanis surprised us with treachery in Kargil, but they still got it back. They were thrown out of every inch that they had occupied, and Nawaz Sharif was forced to run to Washington to get a humiliating ceasefire.
So
Yeah.
as the world is gathering more evidence of how COVID might have... Last question.
Sorry? Yeah,
So I have a couple of more questions.
I haven't had my khana.
Okay.
Where are you based actually?
Kolkata.
Kolkata. Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Last question.
Right. So, do you think women should be allowed in the infantry?
Sorry, what should be allowed?
Do you think women should be allowed in the infantry?
Frankly, no. Not in the Indian context. Because the kind of enemies you have, if our women get captured, they will be subjected to rape, gang rape, and things like that. I would want that to happen to my daughter. They are in the non-combat arms, they are in the combat support arm, they are in the engineers, they are in the signals, the intelligence, and they are doing pretty well. With air combat, it is different. It's quite far neater. And even there, you run the risk of being shot down over enemy territory and captured. And frankly, the time is not yet right for women being in the infantry in the Indian context, because our men in the infantry are all from the villages. And as such, they find it very difficult to, deal with the idea that, women are with them in combat, because they feel it is their job to protect the girls. And how can they let them be exposed to danger? And then there are practical problems. You see, in the infantry, I have to live out in the open, in the mountains, bathe in mountain stream, do my ablution there, eat, drink, sleep with the men. So there are some practical problems. So I don't think the time is quite right. And in Israel, it is done because they have a shortage of it. In United States, not so many people are volunteering for the army. And therefore, they are taking some girls who qualify. Girls are tough. There is no doubt in physical fitness. Some of them are very good. But as a general policy, I don't think the time is right for girls to go into our infantry. You go to the mountains, there is no cover. Where will she go and bathe? Where will she go for her ablution? Do we carry separate tents? So that is practical problem. Very practical.